All right, all right. I just saw Civil War for my second time. This is my second time seeing the movie today, and I came back and I'm ready to do my spoiler review. I wanted to do it earlier today, but I was in a rush to see the movie again. It's that great. It's that great. It's that good. Now, first of all, this is the spoiler review, so spoilers. Okay. Now, first of all I want to say is I just want to start this off by saying this is a great, phenomenal, wonderful, fantastic, spectacular, amazing comic book movie. And it's just a great movie in general, but it's definitely a comic book movie. It has all these comic characters in there. It's a Marvel film. It's a comic book movie. Now, highlight of the film, one of my favorite moments of the film comes from Ant-Man. Ant-Man turned into Giant-Man in this film. Now, I wanted to see Giant-Man, Ant-Man, something like that in these movies for a long time. And when they announced they was doing an Ant-Man film, I was like, good, we're going to see Giant-Man. Or he's going to be Goliath, one of the two. And we got Giant-Man, and that was great. It was fantastic. It was wonderful. It was terrific. Giant-Man, come on now. Ant-Man grew into Giant-Man, and yes, it did happen at the airport scene, which was perfect because it was an all-out brawl, and people were going at it. You had to pull out all the big guns. Although their main objective wasn't to hurt each other, it was more so to stop, and the other team was trying to get away. You know what I mean? They had something they wanted to do, and the others was trying to stop them and bring them in before. And I like the setup because it basically was Tony and everybody on his team saying, we got to bring you guys in. If we don't bring you guys in, they're going to try to kill you guys. But this movie is so good. Anyway, let's get down to it. Let's break it down. The action in this film, phenomenal. The film opens up with just like this little short 5-minute piece, if it was 5 minutes, of Winter Soldier. Something he did back in 1991, which set up something later on in the film. But anyway, the action in this film, they get to the action. They're in Nigeria, and they're looking for Crossbones. Of course, you know him from the Winter Soldier. He was in Winter Soldier. Him and Falcon were fighting at the end, and the building collapsed on him, and he was rescued, and you can see his face was all messed up. But anyway, now he has this outfit that resembles Crossbones from the comics a little. See an X on his, chest gear and on his face mask. It looks like it's a painted skull, but it's not like, neatly drawn. It's not a skull. You can't really see it's a skull. But whatever. He's Crossbones, and you would think he's Crossbones just by looking at him. So the Avengers go to get Crossbones. And in this Avenger team, we got Scarlet Witch, Falcon, Captain America, and Black Widow. Action was off the hook. Falcon was phenomenal in his abilities. He's using his wings. He has more upgraded tech. He has Red Wing, who's not a real bird, because in the comic, Falcon has a connection to almost all birds within a certain radius from him, and he could use them to spy on things. He, look through their eyes. That was a power he obtained. But this Red Wing is mechanical, and it was great. It comes right out of his pack, and he can control it with this wrist-mounted device or forearm-mounted device, and it was just off the hook. It's off the hook. Excuse me if I seem a little excited. This movie was fantastic. I'm still riding the high from seeing it. Falcon was badass in this. I'm gonna say that. Pardon my French. Falcon was badass. You could see the training that took place. He was good because he was a military guy. So in Winter Soldier, he held his own. He was flying. He was using his guns. He was fighting. But in here, he's a level up, a couple levels up. He's really good. He's using his wings as a shield like he does in the comic, and he's taking people out by hitting with the wings, and he's doing all these aerial acrobatic moves. Falcon was badass. And they take out Crossbones. But what happened is, and they take out a lot of his guys too, but what happened is Crossbones was willing to take himself out to kill Cap too, basically just to get some type of revenge for what happened. They dismantled Hydra and, almost killed him. But Wanda saves him. She uses her powers to create a dome around an explosion that Crossbones caused with a grenade, and she threw him up in the air so the explosion couldn't get loose and hurt all the people that were standing around. But it blew up half a building. Wanda's terrified. I heard some people saying, oh, she didn't look like she was upset or worried or sorry about what happened. Yeah, she did. She was terrified. Anytime you put your hand over your mouth and you look like you're about to cry, it's pretty bad, especially when females do that. I know they over-exaggerate, but you could tell Wanda was feeling some remorse. She was even watching the news later on and just looking at it and punishing herself by watching it. Anyway, Vision comes through the room because Cap's talking to her like, don't worry about it. It's not really your fault. It's mine. I shouldn't have been distracted. Crossbones was talking about Bucky and I got distracted. Man, I should have done something. And she's like, it's still my fault. But then Vision just walks through the room and he's like, the door was open. But that's what he does. He fades through things. So he just does it because he can't. I mean, we would too. You just walk right in your room like, Ma. And she'd be like, knock on my damn door. The door's open. I don't care. Or something like that. Back to the story. Bucky. I made a video weeks ago. Weeks ago, where I was talking about Bucky's the victim. Now, Bucky's on the run. He's hiding. He gets framed because there was an explosion at a meeting between the Wakanda King, T'Chaka, and his son was there, T'Challa. And Black Widow was there too. And they're talking about this Soviet Accords because they got this thing thrown at them by General Ross. And Tony has been going through some stuff because women coming up to him, telling him, my son was in Sokovia and he died because you guys were there. No, that's not why he died. He died because of Ultron. They tried to save everybody. But whatever. People get stuff confused and that happens in the real world. So that would happen here too. So Tony's feeling all bad and he's like, General Ross wants us to cooperate with the government, and you guys know basically what that's all about. Registration Act, Sokovia Accords, where they work for the government. The government controls when they can do stuff, and they have to report to them. Cap's not with it. A lot of them not with it. No, I don't think so. The government wants to control everything. And Cap said, well, this comes from people with agendas, and agendas can change. That's true. Even when you make laws, they will find loopholes and do whatever they want, and whatever. Bottom line, he's saying we still are the right ones to do it because these guys can't handle it. You know, they came to us for help before. Anyway, it gets kind of confusing because Tony's all for this thing because he's like, this is what they're going to do this to us later and we might as well just get it over now, work with them and gain their trust. People will stop blaming us because we're doing the right thing. So you can see why he wants to do that. But it was not like he was on board right away because everybody's sad, even though they want to sign this, like Rhodey first saw the Accords, he's looking at it, he's asking questions like, so we can compromise on this thing? You know what I mean? Like, it's something that's being forced upon them, and they know this. And they're just trying to go the path of least resistance. Anyway, getting on with the story. Bucky's in this. They're trying to find Bucky. Cap's on the run. He's like, I'm not signing it yet. You can't act as a hero anymore. Okay, but he does to go find Bucky because they have a lead on him now because Bucky was supposedly spotted at the explosion that killed T'Chaka. And now T'Challa's like, Black Widow, don't worry about finding him. I will kill this man myself. And he's serious. Black Panther is serious in this film. He's serious. I mean, the man, when he puts that suit on and the darn claws come out and he's ready to fight, he has this clear objective. And I heard somebody say this in a review on YouTube. And it was like, no matter what he was doing, no matter who he thought was right or who could help him or he could help, he always had an objective. And it was always Bucky. Catch Bucky. I don't care. I got to get through you. I got to get through you. There was a point at the airport fight sequence that Black Panther and Hawkeye was going at it. And Hawkeye says, we haven't met. I'm Barton. And he's just like, I do not care. You know, he's like, I don't care what your name is. Just get out of my way. I'm not fighting to kill you. I'm not fighting you because you did something wrong. I just need Winter Soldier. You know, what he did, kill my father. But like I said, Bucky's a victim. He's being brainwashed. He's doing some stuff. People are framing him, and he's on the run. I mean, if that was Bucky had a good attitude about it. There was a point at the end when he's in a jet with Captain America, and he's telling him, what's going to happen to all your friends? He's like, I'll deal with it later. He tells him, I don't think I'm worth all this. You know, even though Cap's like, you didn't have a choice in this. You were brainwashed. Somebody was manipulating you, controlling you. He's saying, I still did it. Somebody has to pay, and all they see is me. It's crazy, but it's a comic movie, and it makes for a good story when you do stuff like that. I think the story in this movie was really, really good. There's a lot of different elements to this story. It's Iron Man coming to terms with all the mistakes he's made, even before he was Iron Man. You know, they sold weapons. It's also Captain America trying to act and do the right thing, but some people were afraid because when you're trying to do the right thing, wrong things can still happen. And that happens with him. Then he has somebody from the same time era as him. 70 years ago. You're not going to find too many people that you can relate to like that if you were in a situation like Captain America. So Bucky's going to mean a lot to him. And then he grew up with the man. That was his best friend. And then there was a funeral in here, and Peggy died. I was pretty sure that was her funeral when I seen pictures months ago. She was very old. He got to spend some time with her, and I believe she had Alzheimer's or something like that. And she kept losing her memory, and it kept coming back. I don't know. But Peggy was very old. He was very much in love with her. You can see that in the first Avengers movie. But anyway, enough with the sad stuff. He finds out Agent 13, who had an apartment right next to his in Winter Soldier, who was signed to protect him or watch over him, is her niece. And he's like, oh, that's Sharon Carter. Okay. And you can see they got some kind of crush on each other. A love interest is blooming there. It was cool. There's a love story, a little love interest for Cap, and I like that. Iron Man, him and Pepper are going through things because he's still doing his Iron Man thing and Avengers thing, and he admitted he don't want to stop. He doesn't want to stop, but she needs him to because she's worried about him and it's dangerous and, whatever, I mean, that's coming from a girl who just basically was like a superhero in Iron Man 3 and just saved the day. She should understand sometimes you got to use what you got. With great power comes great responsibility. Speaking of that, Spider-Man. Like I said, the story was great. There's so many different elements to the story. Like when they bring in Ant-Man and he's like, hey, if you need my help, I'll do it, because he's looking for a place to fit in. He was a crook, he was a thief, and now he's with, Hank Pym, but he feels like some superheroes need his help. I'm already a wanted man. People are looking for me. My wife's husband let me go. I might as well help, do some good. But what I'm saying is there's so many different elements and so many different stories to this. Hawkeye joining these guys. Maybe he felt like he was doing the right thing because Iron Man was like, well, I'm surprised you didn't think about your wife and kids. But maybe he is thinking about them. Like, we got to make a stand. We got to stand up for some stuff. I can't just retire. There's people who need our help. Whatever it is, like I said, with great power comes great responsibility, and that leads me to Spider-Man. When he was introduced in this film, it was as Peter Parker. Obviously, Tony's been keeping tabs on anybody he can find or any news about superpowered people, and he decided, let me go get this kid. And I think one of the reasons why his abilities, yes, he saw him web swing and he showed him like, this is a new kid. And he's like, what do you mean? Is this, that's fake. That's online. No, that's not me. But he was swinging, but he also caught a car going at 40 miles an hour. They said that's about 3,000 pounds. So he's obviously very strong and he could be used. Because he referenced the Black Widow. We could really use Hulk right now. Any chance of that? Because they needed to go get Cap and all the other people with him, like Winter Soldier, and it was going to be tough. Spider-Man was so good. When you first see him, you like him. Tom Holland's hair, I think I mentioned this in my non-spoiler review. He looks like what Peter would look like in today, modern day. Not the 60s, because this is in the 60s when Spider-Man came out, but what he would look like today. If you just took him and put the clothes on him from today and surrounded him by today's setting. He is so likable. He's a geek. He's a nerd. He's an inventor. He's making stuff. He's very much book smart, but it's cool. He's going to gravitate towards Iron Man, and even Captain America. He was a fan of him too. But he's so good as Peter Parker. It just was well rounded, and he got web shooters again. Spider-Man in this movie has web shooters. Thank the Lord. Had a big issue with that with the first Spider-Man series, but I like Sam Raimi's work, so they were good movies. But Spider-Man 3, yeah. But anyway, getting back to Spider-Man, they had a cool way. They introduced him talking about you have to do the right thing. With great power comes great responsibility. He's saying, well, when you can do stuff to help people and you don't, the bad stuff happens because of you, because you could have prevented it, but you didn't. So something bad happens. It was a nice, cool way without saying, with great power comes great responsibility. But I wouldn't mind if they would have said that. There was no hints at Uncle Ben. Aunt May's very young. Marissa Tomei looks very good for her age. But they made sure they joked about that a little bit in the film. They addressed it. But Spider-Man was so cool. And they even came up with a good reason why he has those shutters, or his eyes enlarge, expand. And we know for us visually, it's to show emotion, but they're saying that his senses are so heightened now that sometimes it's too much for him. He's only been Spider-Man for about 6 months, he says. So he uses these goggles in his outfit he had, which was just very homemade. And it helps, contain the massive amount of information his brain is getting from his senses being so attuned. So that was pretty cool. So I got the shutters in his mask that Tony gave him because he gives him a new suit, and it's obviously got some tech in it. But that's in the airport sequence, and he held his own. He's web slinging, he's webbing people up, he's shooting webs, he's flipping, he's dodging, he's getting guys with more experience than him handling him at moments, but then he's turning it right around. He's funny. Oh man, he was just great. But let me not speak too much about Spider-Man right now. Let's get back into Black Panther. When T'Challa just feels like he had to take matters in his own hand to get Bucky, because it was his responsibility since his dad died, or it was his right to get justice because he's now king of Wakanda and his dad died. So he's like, I gotta show them, you mess with us, gonna take you down. Plus you killed my dad. Come on now. He goes after Bucky. He's vicious. Bucky narrowly escapes. That whole chase sequence in that tunnel, it was off the hook. First, Bucky and him fighting on a rooftop, it was crazy. Black Panther was just too much for him. And he's got vibranium weaved in his suit, just like in the comics. So when his helicopter comes and shoots bullets at him, it doesn't faze him. It just distracts him for a moment. But Cap's chasing Panther, Panther's chasing Bucky, and Bucky takes his motorcycle. When he grabbed that motorcycle, oh my goodness, and flipped it around, the whole audience, both viewings that I went to, was just like, whoa, that was pretty tight. But he's chasing him, and Cap gets in a car because he couldn't keep up. And it's crazy because Bucky is running fast, and he has some form of the super soldier serum in him, obviously. Talking about Bucky, he had a fight sequence when Cap met up with him and found his apartment. They both were fighting off guys and trying not to kill. And he was doing stuff like grabbing the metal rail and jumping over the staircase, and it was, stretching the metal rail. He was just using that as like a whip around to get to the next floor. It was so cool. And he was picking up the door ram that they used to knock his door down and hitting people with it, but he was using his robotic arm. I mean, they had some great action. Bucky got in a lot of action in this. A lot. He handled his own. Winter Soldier's cool. I don't mind seeing him again. They did him very good. Sebastian Stan, I am a fan. Seeing you on Once Upon a Time. I remember when you played just Bucky Barnes and Captain America: First Avenger. I'm a fan of yours. I saw you in, what was that? The Martian. I mean, every time I see you in something, you do pretty good. You get around, but you're doing this Winter Soldier thing great. It's a great storyline. I think anybody would be, very fortunate to get that role, and you handling it great. So Black Panther is vicious. At the airport, he was more so just get out of my way, everybody. But he was showcasing his acrobatics. He's very agile, and you can see his strength also. But, everybody's got experience, so everybody's getting the best of somebody at one point, and the other person's turning it around. When Black Widow decides to stop him, she's shooting her little disc that, gives you electric shock, and it stops him just for a moment so Cap and Bucky can get away. But he was very upset that they got away. But he found a way to follow him again later. But getting on to some other people's Vision, I don't think they used Vision enough in the action sequences. He did have a lot of screen time. Him and Wanda, Scarlet Witch, were working on their relationship. You can see a relationship building. He was very much what you would expect from somebody who's an android but experiencing emotions. He was like, I don't know what's going on with me, but all of this is new, and what does it mean to be human? I understand what's going on with you guys. At the airport sequence, he did intervene a couple of times and try to stop Cap's team, but it was more so he was just there to guard them from getting away. He was letting everybody else handle it because he just knew this is not the right thing to do, but I do have a duty to uphold, and I'm going to try to stop you if I see you getting away, or if Team Iron Man is losing, I'll step in. That's what it seemed like he was doing mostly. But Vision was really cool in here, though. I think Paul does a great job playing Vision, and it's so phenomenal. He's a phenomenal actor, so his presence, he gets Vision, how Vision is supposed to be. And I don't know if that's the directors directed him on that, or if he did his research. Either way, his performance was great as Vision. Now, what else happened? Ant-Man. I can't get enough of Ant-Man. Ant-Man turned into Giant Man, and you know it's coming because he's talking about, I can do something big to even the odds. And he's like, I've done this only once before, but I passed out. And he jumps on Rhodey's back when Rhodey's flying around. And then he just hits his little, device, and he grows, and he's holding Rhodey. He's like, ah. And Spider-Man has his moment when he sees that. And that moment he's like, oh, shit. pardon my French, but everybody started laughing. And that was a genuine reaction. I mean, everybody was reacting to that like, oh my goodness. And speaking of Rhodey, War Machine got some good time in here. He had a little like sonic device that helped, with a lot of them trying to stop. Scarlet Witch was about to, let Cap and Bucky get away, and he stopped her. He had some good action in here. I was glad to see War Machine get some more action because I really liked War Machine when I was growing up. He was a guy, he's an African American and a superhero. So and then he was cool because I really liked Iron Man, and he was just like Iron Man, and he even took over for Tony at one point when he was an alcoholic, as Iron Man. And he was in the Secret Wars, the first Secret Wars in the 80s, when Spider-Man first got that alien costume. It was fantastic. I like Rhodey. I like War Machine. I got enough of him. I feel like I got enough of him. And we all seen that he got hit in his chest. Vision tried to take out Falcon, and it hit Rhodey's arc reactor in his suit, and he just sent him to the ground. And he ends up like with some paralysis, and Tony's trying to help him walk again with some of his tech. But it was very sad because he could have died. And even Falcon swooped down while Iron Man was trying to get to Rhodes, but they both didn't make it in time. And he's like, I'm sorry. And Tony's just like, bam, it's whatever. He didn't do it to kill him, just to hurt him. It's just, this whole movie was fantastic, man. What I love about this movie the most is that it connects to all the other movies, 12 other movies. And even though Thor and Hulk wasn't in this, they interact with these characters, and that helps build something. And something like what happened in Avengers has never been done before. 4 different solo franchises all come together to create one movie and then go even further. This has never been done before, and all these movies connect. And there's other movies like Guardians of the Galaxy that weren't sharing this moment with them, but they're in the universe, and you just get the sense the universe is so big. And I think that's one of my favorite moments of this movie, is that everything works so well because everything's so connected. So when they introduce new characters like Black Panther and Spider-Man, you just have a great time accepting it because you're waiting on more characters. And when they show up, that's good. And if you're not a comic book fan, when you see these new characters, you just pretty much believe it's going to turn out pretty good. Even some of the films that weren't too good, like Thor 2, Thor: The Dark World, or Iron Man 2 for a lot of people, but I kind of liked it. Iron Man 3, I kind of liked it. Or whatever, Even though those movies weren't typically the best in the series or great or reached the height as other ones, they all played a part because it furthered the story with these characters and other characters. Like Black Widow was introduced in Iron Man 2, Spider-Man 2. And it gives everybody more history, and it comes together in a film like this, and it was done the right way. But it was the right time to do something like this. Even if they did this a little later, it could have worked even better, but it's just great, this ensemble. And one of the things about this film was, it wasn't just all us good guys after the bad guys. It was mainly a family dispute over a new government law that's about to go into effect. And that's something that I think we needed. We needed a change of pace. All of us versus something bad. Now it's some of us versus each other, and then some of us versus the government, and then some of us trying to stop this other plot, like that Zemo, Baron Zemo. Well, he just goes by Zemo in this movie, really. But he had this plot to make everybody fight. He was trying to set some stuff up, but they already was bickering at each other and bumping heads. But Zemo just pushed them further. And he had this plan where he just wanted to show Tony what really happened to his parents, or he kind of speculated because he's supposedly a smart guy, and Black Widow released all this Hydra information and S.H.I.E.L.D. information out to the world after the events of Winter Soldier. He happened to find out that something fishy happened, and he wanted to find it so he could show Tony, so that could just make things even worse because he knew that the government wanted the Winter Soldier, and it was that Tony's parents were killed by Winter Soldier. He was back in 1991, the opening sequence of the movie, and you find out that's the car accident his parents was in. Howard Stark was transporting some of Roger's blood that was probably frozen, or samples of the blood that they were trying to turn into a super soldier serum. And they made other super soldiers like Winter Soldier. There were other Winter Soldiers, and Bucky, to get the serum, he had to kill them. They didn't want any witnesses, and it was all caught on a nearby surveillance camera. And it was, for all the flaws that were in this movie, it was the same amount of flaws in every movie that's fictional. Even some movies based on true stories have some flaws or some plot holes in it. It's nothing too big. I mean, Baron Zemo wasn't a great villain, but he was good enough. I say that. They do struggle with their villains, but Marvel, Kevin Feige was talking about they like to focus on their heroes more. They'll throw a villain in here every once in a while. They focused on Loki, so he worked pretty well. Red Skull was just good. Hugo Weaving was fantastic. But they try to focus on their heroes more, and this was more about the heroes, not so much the villains. So I mean, I don't want to go on too long, but that's my spoiler review. That was just some of the stuff that was in there. Spider-Man, Black Panther, Ant-Man stole the show. Everybody else complimented everybody else. Hawkeye, Scarlet Witch. She's still using mostly telekinesis, but she's starting to do some other stuff because she started to control vision. Now, since her powers came from the Mind Stone, maybe that's why she was able to do it. But I have a feeling later on we're going to see her get into her powers even more, do some other things. The film was just great, man. It was best superhero movie I've ever seen. But I would say Avengers is my favorite one because it's the first time you saw this collaboration from four different really, movies and characters, and more than four characters really, but it's just a great collaboration. Don't forget Nick Fury. He showed up in some movies, so just having him in Avengers 2 was like really good. But it's kind of hard to top that. So I would say it's even with Avengers right now. Well, I might have Avengers over top of it just a little bit because when it came out in a special place it holds in my heart. But this is my favorite superhero movie besides Avengers. It's great. On a scale of 1 to 10, I give it a 9 or 9.5, 9.5, because there's always room for improvement and nothing's ever really 100% perfect. Even if I give something a 10, there's still some stuff that could be done better. But I give it a 9.5 because I know another Marvel movie one day is going to top that. Everybody's acting was good. Ant-Man or Scott Lang was very much Scott Lang. I like how when he was in the prison, because everybody on Cap's team got locked up. And once Cap and Bucky got away, because they're the only two that could get away from the airport after the whole, airport sequence happened. But Scott Lang was like, Hank Pym said you could never trust a Stark. And he's looking at, Scott like, and who are you? And he's like, come on, man. You know what I mean? And it's like, you still don't know who I am? Or something like that. I mean, little things like that just go a long way with me because I really like the Ant-Man movie. And I was very much a comic fan growing up, hardcore Marvel fan. And it was just a wonderful movie for fans. And it was a great movie for anybody who's not a fan of the comics, but just of movies or Marvel Cinematic Universe. This was a phenomenal movie. Everybody needs to see it. I've already saw it twice. It might beat my record of most times I saw a movie. The most times I saw a movie was like 3 times. And I think it's 3 different movies, I believe. Yeah, it was like Fast and Furious, the first one, Mission Impossible 2. I don't know why me and my friends ended up seeing that 3 times. I think nothing else was playing, so we just saw it again. Whatever. But this is about Civil War. Civil War was great. It was great. The after credit sequences, they were okay. You find out after it's all said and done, the big fight at the end, Iron Man taking on Captain America and Winter Soldier because he found out Winter Soldier killed his parents. That's kind of hard to get over, people. I mean, think about that for a second. You just watched your mom get strangled and your dad get killed by the Winter Soldier, and you know he's in the right state of mind. He wasn't then. It's just so hard if you were there. So Tony was already dealing with a lot anyway. So he snapped and he tried to, kill Winter Soldier. But Cap ended up winning, or at least stopping Tony, because Tony pretty much had Cap done. I like Friday and his suit. She was like, you can't beat him on hand-to-hand combat. And he's like, well, analyze his attacks. And, then he got his attack pattern. And, I guess the suit was in reflex mode and it pretty much anticipated what Cap was going to do. And he bested him. But Bucky distracted him just long enough. Bucky was trying to take the arc reactor out of the suit. And you can see that in the trailers. And I knew it. I called it. I've been called it. He's going to blast it with his chest beam. And he blew Bucky's arm off and pretty much knocked Bucky out of commission. All he did was distract Tony enough so Cap can get on top of him and drive his shield into his arc reactor and, pretty much stop the whole battle at the end. But, Black Panther got Zemo. Zemo decided, I'm going to kill myself because my family died in Sokovia, and that's why I've been planning this. You guys aren't heroes, and, well, it's time for me to die because he kept listening to a message. The last message, I guess, he got from his wife on his phone just to hear her voice. So he tries to shoot himself, and Black Panther stops him. And he's like, the living's not done with you yet. Almost killed the wrong guy because of you. Now we got you. You're going to suffer. You're going to pay the right way. He doesn't want to let vengeance consume him the way it did Tony and the way it did Zemo. So Black Panther was a great character. They introduced him. I think he plays the character well. I talked about that in my non-spoiler review. But I just wanted to point out some stuff that happened in the movie that was great. That makes this movie great. Makes it great. And, oh God, it's such a good movie. Just please go see it. I don't need to spoil it for you. I don't need to give you a spoiler review. See the damn movie. Anyway, like the video if you like the video. Subscribe. Write some comments. Share the video. And I will see you next time.